Thank you, everybody, for being here. It's 5:30, and we have a wonderful guest, and we want to respect everyone's time, so we want to get going. This is the December 2025 meeting of the Wildfire Safety Advocates here in Waikōloa Village. We are streaming on Zoom. You can see people up there, and I will be recording and putting this on YouTube later, just for everyone's heads up. But without further ado, we want to get straight to our guest. It's our county council member, James Hustace. Thank you so much, council member, for being here. And he's here to give us an update on the year. And yes, please take it away.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate the time here to connect with the Waikōloa community. I know it's here. I haven't been with you meeting in a little while now, so I appreciate the time to kind of connect and talk about a couple of things. My last time I was here in Waikōloa talking with the community was with the WPA board. So also appreciate the opportunity to engage there and update on a few things happening at the council level, particularly that affect the community here in the South Mahalo region. So grateful to share those things. Gonna definitely talk about a number of things. There's road work I want to talk about. There's also legislation I want to talk about, and what's kind of coming up and the support that I'm looking for in the community, looking at the next calendar year, especially as we look into the next budget, the fiscal year budget for the county. So I think a lot of you have seen, and I'll start off with some of the roadwork stuff. And I think a lot of you have firsthand witnessed the changes happening here at Mahalo Avenue and Waikōloa Road intersection, right? That everyone's kind of into that space already and seen that. Good. I'm sure you can't miss it, right? So it's been a long time coming. And as you know, as residents here in the community, something to happen at that intersection, right? And I know we've had a lot of discussion in the community for many of years, and a lot of you have attended those meetings about what that looks like, whether it's a roundabout or a lighted intersection. So what's going up right now is a temporary lighted intersection. And I don't know how long temporary is, but it's going to be there. And if you've seen the press releases at all, that intersection will go live next week, Monday. Oh. So that's the plan. Yeah. So you'll experience some changes there. They're actually out there. Quite a number of crews are out there right now testing the system. On starting the next 2 days, they're going to be testing the lights and through the weekend. So really on Friday, you should be seeing the lights being activated. They're not going to be the systematic, rotation of colors on the priority road. So Waikōloa Road, it's going to be flashing yellow. All right. And you all know what flashing yellow means, right? So it's a caution or a yield, right? So you want to pay attention as things are happening in that area. And on the side streets, Pumalia and Mahalo Avenue, it's going to be flashing red. So please treat that as a stop sign, right? So make those maneuvers appropriately through that space. So that's the plan. That's right around the corner. I know it's been a long time coming for improvements in that area. You've all experienced traffic, congestion there, traffic woes. We've seen bad accidents, fatalities at that intersection. So it's a really bad space, all in all. And I think this should bring some safety elements to that. It's not going to solve all the problems. I think we can talk about that a little bit too as we talk about the community kind of going forward as well. But so that's right on the horizon here. So grateful to see that. So if you ever see Neil Azevedo and anyone from the Department of Public Works, please give them a big mahalo for the work that they're doing. They kind of did it in-house. And like I said, it's only temporary because the plan still is to move forward on a roundabout intersection. So I know there's some, qualms about that, but the plan is to move forward on that. And there have been conversations about acquisition of the corner lots to kind of make that move forward. So it's still a ways off. That's not going to happen anytime soon, but it's still something that is in the pipeline for a number of different reasons. And I think one, this advocacy group can talk about it in terms of safety in the community, particularly when we're dealing with a community that really is in a PS area or public safety power shutoff area, right? HELCO has an authority to kind of shut its systems down during extreme weather events. But how does that affect a lighted intersection? Well, that's a question, right? So that's maybe something to think about if you want to consider a roundabout down the road. And as all the studies have shown, the roundabout does last a little bit longer in terms of dealing with congestion in years to come when it comes to growth. So if we can keep having those conversations, but grateful to see that lighted intersection move forward to deal with the congestion and helping people maneuver in and out safely in that area. Because we all have seen people use it and think it's a four-way stop when it isn't a four-way stop. So that's gonna be a big change for the community. So take your time going through there and help educate your neighbors about the change that's coming up. So there's that one. I want to start with that one. We also will be seeing some other road improvements and safety mechanisms along Paniolo Avenue. They're still watching the Waikōloa intersection. There are some, they put in a lighted system there for pedestrians to cross. They're kind of watching that one. We're still seeing a lot of people speed down the hill from the main intersection. So we're still seeing some challenges there. Still need to kind of have a better approach to that Waikōloa intersection. So that's on the table. There's also something that's in the works at Pu'unui intersection. So a little bit further down towards the school, there is a pedestrian crossing, but it's not a raised crosswalk. So if you feel it as a pedestrian, and I think you see a lot of kids walking across there with their heavy backpacks, so it's kind of a precarious space. So Public Works is also going to be putting in a raised crosswalk in that area as well. So those are some other upcoming projects, and then they're also on Hyanna Street. Some other, finalizing the crosswalks on, the raised speed humps in that area.
Do you know the time frame for the race sidewalk at Pu'unui?
I don't know but they've kind of mapping it out. Yesterday at the South Carolina Traffic Safety Meeting, which was hosted here actually as well. And Neil Azevedo, our Deputy Director for Public Works, talked about just a small crew that they have to kind of do that work. They have about 2 to 4 guys that really are focused on those other things, and that's for the whole island. So they kind of are going in different directions. They've really completed a lot of the paving efforts in the village for now. If there's any other road that you know of that has not been paved, please let me know. But they've really touched on a lot of the roads in the community here to resurface those areas. But happy to talk about other speed humps in different areas. And the DPW crews are going back up to Waimea to do work before they go up to North Mahalo. So they move in these kind of pockets around the island. Let's see. There were also some questions about dog parks. I think that was one of the questions that came up. Sure. So I had a conversation with Rhonda Pollard just the other day. I think many of you might know Rhonda Pollard. She doesn't live in the Waikōloa village anymore, but she was kind of with the contingent of friends of the Waikōloa Dog Park. So I had a good conversation with her. She lives in Honoka actually now, so she doesn't live in the Waikōloa village, but she's still an advocate for these community spaces and seeing improvement on our park areas. And I will be meeting with the parks administrators in the next couple of weeks here to really talk about dog parks and our park spaces in general. We've seen some good improvements at Pu'unui. I want to, really mahalo the community members for stepping forward for the playground at Pu'unui. And I know there's future requests for other park spaces like the dog parks and other opportunities. So definitely on the pulse of those things. If you have other ideas or questions about things, happy to answer some of those. So that's kind of on our park side. Yeah. And then the other one I wanted to kind of touch about is Hulu. I'll start with Hulu Street egress. We've had some of these conversations here and with advocacy from this group and with Matt, we have seen some improvements to the Hulu Street egress. Have all of you been down the Hulu Street egress on some of those days to test it out? Anyone not been down that road? That evacuation road? Okay, so down that road, it's a single lane road, has a chip seal coat. It was gravel at one point, and it has been steadily improved in different pieces. They've paved areas, has a chip seals coat, and it probably needs to be retouched up at some point. So that's a conversation I have with the mayor and DPW. But in conversations with Matt and Neil Azevedo and myself, we pushed for greater improvements, and mahalo Matt for kind of pushing on those for Hulu Street itself, the egress road, in terms of pullover lanes and mile markers. So if there's ever an emergency on Hulu egress, we can better easily identify where those locations are and have areas where people can pull over so they're not blocking any sort of evacuation or cars going down Hulu egress. So big effort there. Yes.
I was gonna say, I was just down.
Yep.
At Evacuation last week, and except for the hill, the steep hills, that's the only place I see it's chip seal.
Yeah.
Everything else is just one of those things proud.
And so that the chip seal is like it's kind of like a temporary coat, and so that they will have to go back in there and kind of reapply. So it's if you are seeing it kind of breaking up, then thank you for that feedback.
Yeah, I don't know if you've been there in the last week or so.
Not in the last week, no.
I don't see, it's not breaking up, it's just crowd.
Okay, good to know.
If anyone else come down to the school, it's just crowd.
Okay, good to know. Thank you. I can report that back to Neil and the team. Yes, Bob.
The other thing we raised with Neil when he was here was that there are two 90-degree curves in that road. And our concern is that at night,
Yeah.
in smoke, you won't see the curves.
Mm.
Your headlights won't even tell you there's a curve. So we need at those curves.
The directional arrows.
To have directional
Yeah.
arrows
Okay.
posted around the curve. Make sure that people are not driving off the road and then blocking everybody behind.
Okay.
And Neil said he would look into that, so it's not a new issue for him, but it would be good if he followed up.
Okay. Thank you for letting me know that. All right.
I have a closer to you. We can never hear you.
Okay, so that's, appreciate those updates and kind of the, you see it firsthand, so thank you for that feedback. Yes, sir.
Who's got the key?
The key, well, at the end of the day, the key doesn't really matter. I'll just put it that way, but there are keys with the WVA, the CERT team has a key. Police and fire have a key. Who else has a key? But that, at the end of the day, in the conversations I have with fire, they don't care about the key. They will just cut the bolts and they'll cut the chain. Yeah.
Well, that's cool then.
Well, fire has, they have it in their, they keep it in the truck.
People.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't you think we could have one of those things that's break in case of emergency? Yeah.
Yeah. The conversation I had with fire is that if it had to push come to shove, they just cut the chain. They don't, yeah, the chain is cheaper, so just chuck the chain and open the gate. Yeah, yes, Stephanie.
Let's go back to the Nui elevating the crosswalk for a minute.
Yeah.
I really think the flashing lights make a much bigger difference than an elevated crosswalk. I don't really understand
Sure.
why raising a crosswalk 2 inches or 1.5 inches,
Yeah.
whatever it is. And I mean, if it was like a speed bump before the crosswalk,
Right.
it would make pretty more sense, but where someone is walking, for them to be this height instead of this height, it's not gonna slow people down.
Yeah, no, I hear that. So what my understanding is from state highways, because state highways has put some. If you've gone through Waimea, they put some on the main highway there, which has always been a issue of consternation for some community members as well. The reason that it is done to raise a crosswalk is because it brings the pedestrian up to a better eye level with the driver of a vehicle. That's the feedback that I've received from state highways. Yeah, so it's supposed to bring them up so you can see them a little bit better. That's,
The lights,
yep,
yeah, they're not using the lights over by Waikōloa and Mahalo anymore. Put those lights down in Nui, and because you're
Sure.
coming around the turn.
Yeah.
And you're going downhill, so
Yes.
your speed is faster.
yes, okay,
That crosswalk comes up pretty
it
fast,
does, yeah, right at the bottom of the hill there, yeah,
flashing lights,
okay,
write that down.
okay.
Yeah, with that curve, you need a flashing light, like 500 feet in advance too. Because you can't see around that curve.
So
Okay.
maybe in
2 sets of flashing lights.
Yeah.
And another thing too, speed has always been a problem in every city.
Right.
But it seems like even in a 25-mile-an-hour district, speed zone, residential, there's nobody to police.
Yeah.
There's nobody to watch these guys speed. And just like it's a speed limit, you should even post it.
Yeah, I'll talk to you about the police thing in a little bit, because it's something that I wanna reach out to the community for support kind of going forward, so I'll get back to the police thing in a little bit. But thank you.
Not to cut you off,
Yeah.
I did go to the police station
Yeah.
yesterday to
Oh,
find my
yeah.
Justin on the lot, and that's where the fireworks thing comes in. So
Okay.
I do have an intention of bringing up
Okay.
policing in general.
Okay, I also want to provide, I don't have much in the way of updates, but I also wanted to share some information on the other egress road that is in the pipeline. So Kamakoa and that egress road, you probably have heard some conversation about another emergency access road on the north side of the village. That project is moving forward. So Goodfellow Brothers has the purchase order from Department of Transportation to move forward on a single lane access egress road out of the north side of the village. So it would be much like what we see at the early stages of the Hulu egress road. That's my understanding, that it would be a gravel road, one lane access out of the north end of the village. So State Highways is working on that contract with Goodfellow Brothers at the moment, and we're supposed to be seeing work at any point, anytime pretty soon. And there may be some information being put out by Department of Transportation to that effect, to let the community know that this is coming up.
Do you want to pull up a map up?
Certainly, so I have both a map of the area, what we're talking about right now, this is the village overall. This is Nanakai, the new construction, this is the skate park and the baseball field. What we're talking about, this part right here, I'll zoom in a little bit, sorry. Okay, this is where Hawai'i County is, Nanakai Skate Park. This is where the road ends right now. This part that has a marking, that's the county's responsibility, at least the wastewater treatment plant. The part that we are talking about right now with the state is going to be going from the wastewater treatment plant right here to this little road right here. And this is the area in which that is going to be happening as well. And we can zoom around a little and look, but this is the wastewater treatment plant. And down here, I can actually zoom in and you can actually see the driveway where this is going to get spit out eventually. There's no work happening yet. That's the driveway where it's going to get spit out. So it's going to go through the field.
Here's some questions.
Up to here. Yes, questions?
Sorry to interrupt.
No.
Yeah, I have a question about another road, not just an emergency road.
Yep.
Because when the workforce housing is full, there's gonna be hundreds of cars
Yep.
trying to get out that one road, and they're all gonna have to drive by to school.
Right.
And I'm just really worried. I live near there, and it's bad enough now with people speaking.
So
Is that gonna be addressed?
So I'll talk to you about that a little bit in terms of the budget, that sort of thing. So this work that's planned and it's on the horizon here by Goodfellow Brothers in the state. You know, it covers a certain portion of it. The county still has to come to the table as well, so there's still some more to be done. It also needs some clarity. I've talked to Senator Richards about it a little bit. There is some understanding from him that it is actually more than a gravel road, that it might be a chip seal road. So I need some clarity on that from him, but that's his understanding. So there's some questions that remain on what that end product of what the state is going to do in that area. So there are some questions outlined about
But
that.
is
Yes,
it still just an emergency road?
yes, yes. So it's still yeah, it's still a one lane emergency exit road. Yes. You had a question over here, then I'll go back to you soon.
So what my question is that we'll have two emergency roads out.
Yep.
But the last emergency we had was the tsunami that we had 7 hours to get ready for. So that was really, easy. But they said that they couldn't bring them up.
That's correct.
So the only place they had was Waikōloa Road and Kauai High to get out. That was a lot of people.
Yeah.
What if we don't have 7 hours and we can't use those two emergency roads to get people up?
Yeah, so those roads are not meant to go uphill. It's only meant to go downhill because cars, given that scenario, particularly at dusk and in the night hours, people would not have made it up those roads safely because it's either because the grade is too challenging, it's uphill. A lot of those vehicles wouldn't be able to make it, they break down. And of course it's dark. And not a lot of our tourists know about it, so it'd be kind of another challenge and probably a disaster scenario.
Ways to tell it and educate people. We can put stuff in their rooms. Whenever there was one when I was here on vacation, there was
Sure.
an all morning and it was in front of the phone book, but we don't have phone books anymore. But to say that we can't train people, I mean, they're gonna be looking to get out, especially if it's the American Samoas that we're getting a tsunami from or something closer.
Yeah, the tsunami one is an interesting one because I've talked to civil defense about this. They actually didn't need to evacuate much further than beyond Queen Kaahumanu Highway. That was kind of that was a safe zone there. So if they actually had told people, just drive up to Queen Kahumanu Highway and park on the side of the road, you were in the clear. But for whatever reason, there was, and I've talked to civil defense about this, and it was pretty hard on them. I said, look, we had miscommunication in the resort community and in the Waikōloa community. Because the community members here really stepped forward to open up the cafeteria, the school cafeteria, because it wasn't on the designated list of evacuation sites. Because there's differences in opinions between the state and the county, and that's a state facility. So, I've talked to civil defense about re-identifying that site as an evacuation location when if and when that need arises. And the resort community had some varying degrees of what they wanted to do. Some were at vertical evacuation, and some decided to just clear out early, which everyone should have been doing early, of course, whenever we got the message. But yeah, it was definitely an impact on the community. And I know that these parking lots were jammed up. Waimea was crazy, people were all over the place. And when I was driving back from Kona and the emergency operations center in Kona, the upper highway, there were so many cars on the highway, it was amazing.
No, I'm not complaining about.
No, of course, yeah.
That's not what my point was.
Well,
I
you're
did not
talking about-
realize that, Queen K was the safe spot. I didn't
Yeah.
realize that. Okay.
Yeah.
When you drive down from it, you see the tsunami evacuation signs are between the Queen K and the resorts.
Many families have multiple cars.
Oh, yeah.
Multiple problems.
But that was,
That's the whole scenario of trying to escape.
Right.
When you have teenagers and so on and so forth.
Yep.
So that's another major problem.
Sure.
We don't have enough roads to accommodate
Yeah.
more cars.
Right.
Remember, that's just not gonna.
Yeah, I'll talk about the police thing in a little bit, just a touch on it here. On duty, we have 2 officers up and 2 officers down technically. So basically, we have 2 patrol officers down in our coastal region and the Waikōloa region, and then 2 up on more of the Waimea. And then sometimes they cross paths. And if there's ever an issue, they all get pulled in different directions. So that's something that we need to talk about as a community when we look at our budget going forward about what the police look like. And we'll talk about it a little bit, because that's also something else I want to advocate and need your support on. But there's another question, yes.
Actually, I have 2 questions on the
Please.
second Jackson Road.
Yep.
All the right of way is cleared now, because last time we heard there were still questions of the right of way that they didn't have the whole right of way, they had somebody owned land or.
They've been doing my understanding is it's they're still doing some archaeological stuff, there's still some lingering things, but it is a forthcoming project, and all of that should have been solved by now.
And the second question is, Nanakai was supposed to somehow get involved in that secondary road, are they
Yep.
still involved with this?
Yeah, so I'm gonna pivot a little bit because on that question. In the last, fiscal, on our current fiscal calendar with the county, so our fiscal calendar year is June, July time, right? That's when we switch our calendar for fiscal years. And with the support of community members like yourself and the wildfire safety advocates here in Waikōloa, we were successful and I was successful in bringing and identifying additional needs for the Waikōloa community on the county capital budget. So on the capital budget, I successfully added $2.5 million for design and study, all that pre kind of analysis for an arterial road at the north end of the village. So that was added into the county's capital budget. It was the first time that any dollars were deemed and identified for like a arterial road or other major infrastructure on the north end of the village for Waikōloa. Thank you for that. Then on the other part of that was, I was able to successfully with this group and support the community add $5 million to expand Paniolo Avenue from Ho'oko Street to Kamakoa. So right now, a lot of you know that's a 2-lane road. And if you had any sort of evacuation, you have a bottleneck in that area. So the other piece was, there was a 2-prong approach there. One was for the arterial road for design and study, and the other was to widen Paniolo Avenue from Ho'oko to Kamakoa. Now, the reason I had both of those on there is because Nanakai and the Summers project is required to do one of the 2. So my approach was to say, if they're required to do one of the 2, then the county needs to do the other one of the 2. And so why not have both projects geared up, lined and ready. So that we can have that conversation with administration and move forward on one of them or the other. At the same time, working with the developer, the landowners in that area, so that was the approach and to that, yeah. Yes, definitely.
So with Mahalo, I know in the past, the deal that the county made with developers is
Yeah.
after you build 299 houses. or
76,
whatever,
76.
Then you have to.
Sure.
do improvements.
Yep.
Infrastructure should be required before they sell out at once.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree with you. So some of the challenge sometimes we have is these agreements are quite dated. And they've been in negotiation for a long time with all the attorneys and the county attorneys and all the county employees. And those plans have been sitting on the shelf for a long time, and any sort of negotiation can bring that back up for conversation. But those unfortunately are the agreements we have, and I do worry that, you know, will they ever hit that number? Because if you never hit that number, then they don't have to do it,
Well,
right?
I forget it was Sunset Ridge or,
Sure.
okay, who
Yep.
had a number and then they stopped like one house short of that number and then sold the development
That's
to someone else.
Yep.
I mean,
And you don't, and that trigger doesn't happen, right? So that's the concern. I've seen it on other projects, and I've had this conversation with my colleagues on the council about these projects that. These old agreements that are sitting on a shelf and someone can activate and be like, yep, this is all, I have all the entitlements. I can do all this and not worry about this until this date or this time or this trigger. And there is that concern about some of these old agreements, and I carry that concern as well. So it really, we need to really revisit those agreements. We have to sunset them? Do we renegotiate them? Whatever the case may be. So it's around the entire island, some of these old agreements, so it's something that all comes.
Are they already in financial problem, because they are,
That I
it
don't,
goes out very fast, where the ones across the street from there are just going like crazy.
Well, the ones across the street are funded by the county versus the Nanakai ones that are being privately funded by an individual who, by all counts, is a
For
billionaire.
so long, they're really not getting very far.
They've gotten real far. I'm gonna play some video for you in a little bit that you're gonna be disappointed in.
The girl that's on the corner and there's not going very fast, so
Yeah.
they're already financial problems.
Yeah.
so there are two other things I wanted to talk about before I kind of pass it back and we talk about some other things. You know, the first is really the general plan. And this is a vision and guiding document for the county. It's our 20-year vision for the county. We're currently, a lot of our policies that administration, that the council kind of look to, that our community development plans look to, is our 2005 general plan. Right? A lot has happened since 2005. Our South Koala CDP provided some priorities and updates specific to the region in 2008. It's still been a lot of time since 2008, and the community has changed, the community is growing. It has grown and is still growing, and there's more potential growth in the entire, not just Waikōloa, but in our resort communities and Waimea, all these communities that kind of live and breathe in the same area. So the general plan is at kind of its more or less its tail end of the process of updating it. And it sits with the council right now. So we've gone for a number of months going through each of the substantial chapters, the body chapters of the plan, in reviewing that, asking questions of the planning departments, and having some good conversations about that, and really what makes the community tick and what's needed in community, all those sort of things. We will be bringing it up again in the new year, at committee again, and really for an opportunity to provide amendments and provide some changes to that document. So if you haven't had a chance to look at the general plan, it's a high level document. It thinks, looking, 20,000 feet sort of elevation and looking down at some of these big policy initiatives for the county. So it's not very specific to community, but there are things in there that talk about, disaster preparedness, sustainability, growth in communities, housing, infrastructure, all those things. And I think a lot of you have, firsthand experiences with all of those. So as we bring it back to council and as we provide amendments to it, I want to encourage you to get involved in that process, to kind of keep tracking the work that we're doing on it as we make any sort of changes. Any changes that we do make of any substantial nature will go back down to the planning commission level. They will have another crack at it and review it before they send it back up to council. So there's still this kind of back and forth, but it's an opportunity for community to kind of weigh in and look at that document in a kind of an open setting. So I encourage you to kind of take a look at that document as it comes forward. And then I also just wanted to talk about just briefly on the budget. And I mentioned the two projects, particularly road projects for the Waikōloa community in this current fiscal year's budget. I'm still working and advocating with the mayor on as much as I can to see those projects forward. That has been a little bit of a struggle, but it's really, I need your support to kind of keep reaching out to the mayor's office and administration to activate those dollars and to move forward on those projects. So there's still work to do on that side of things. But I'm also starting to think about the next fiscal year. We're halfway through the fiscal year, but we're going to be seeing the budget come up again in early spring already. And there have been a couple of things on the top of my mind that, you know, as we see community grow here with development, with the workforce housing that the county's moving on, and that's opening up pretty soon here. There are needs for the community at large. So if you have any concerns or issues or things that we need to bring forward and need to be considered in our county budget, please let me know. That the two that I wanted, that I want your support on as we keep having these conversations, and it's something to think about and consider. I still have to work out some of the tweaks on it. Well, the first is talking about our police. We don't have a substation in the Waikōloa community. So this is a conversation I've had with police as well as with fire, because if you are familiar with one of our fire stations on the lower highway, Queen Kakamanu Highway, they do have a police substation there. And it is a place where the police officers can sit at a desk when they're not on patrol, they can do a little bit of work. And there are some other opportunities to be able to do some more things down there as well. But I do think there's an opportunity for one here in Waikōloa Village, whatever that may look like. But I'm having that conversation with fire because it could be a shared space from the initial stages before we think about something at a larger scale. So thinking about that for sure. Still need to kind of crunch some numbers and think about what that looks like in the budget. But related to that is definitely staffing for police in the region. We have such a large geographic area and diverse community needs that there is really an opportunity for more police in our communities. So for one reason or another, from the speeding on Honolulu Avenue or you name it, or evacuation events, there's opportunity for it. So I think it's there. The other one that's somewhat related because it's in the same space is with our fire department here, and looking to support them a little bit more with staffing at the Waikōloa station. So I'm going to be presenting some numbers on that. I've been actively talking with the fire department and our director of finance, Diane Nakagawa, about this and seeing if it has been a supplemental request in the past by fire department, but it's something that I had the request from a battalion chief for greater staffing at this location, so that it doesn't fall on the battalion chief. Sometimes the battalion chief isn't always there. Sorry to take a step back, but we have two battalion chiefs on the island. We have an East Hawaii battalion chief and a West Hawaii battalion chief. With every position, it's basically 3 individuals. So this battalion chief is actually 3 different people. Sometimes the battalion chief is here in Waikōloa, sometimes they're in Kona. So they kind of rotate across the west side. So I'm talking to the battalion chief who often operates out of this side. There's been requests in the past and want to bring it forward to support staffing efforts here at this fire station. Just with the growth of the community, the need, the dangers, the risks here in the community. So like I said, I'm actively working with the finance department to see if they can build it into the budget ahead of time. Otherwise, I will have to bring an amendment to the budget, but happy to fight for that. So I wanted to share those with you. And it's something that, I'm going to need direct support on as I present these opportunities in the budget process. As I go through those numbers, something that it'd be great to have you testify on and kind of weigh in on. Yes, Julia.
I just hope that maybe in the next year's budget, we can start getting some funding together to do a study on a community gym that we desperately need here. Because everybody else is starting to put their hand out for more money to
Sure.
get this room fixed or get that fixed, or put the walls on the side. And we're just gonna be in a perpetual spin and never get anything.
Yeah, but I'm,
Fools and,
no, and related to that, I know the library in that same vicinity
right,
is still kind of lingering. I haven't seen why, I don't know why it's kind of taking time to get going up. But they have the dollars, the state rep Tarnas
Yeah.
got those dollars to get across the finish line. So, but that's one of those community spaces where people could gather in necessary events, but another community shelter is definitely warranted. And I have talked to Beverly Brand about the Pu'unui structure and you, Julie, as well, about the opportunities for the Pu'unui building and what we need to improve that space as well. So those are conversations I'm having with parks as well at the moment for facilities that exist, but thank you for advocating for a new space, because it's needed for the community, especially as you're seeing younger families here, you're seeing growth in the community and a place to kind of hunker down in any sort of event, you're gonna need that, yeah. Yes, well,
Relating to the general plan.
Sure.
okay, Raise some specific issues with you right now, is it?
yeah, if we have the time, if anything comes up, yeah.
Let's not go too long.
You know the issues. So in the old general, the current one. It states that it's an action item. To supply communities with an additional access road if the community only has one road
Right.
route in and out.
Yeah,
The new plan, the language changes that from an action item to a policy. It seems to me like that's a step backwards.
okay,
And the question, I have two questions. One is, what is the difference between an action and a policy? And it seems to me that an action is something that implements policy. And so right now, we're committed to actually doing it,
right,
because we're calling it an action. And then turn it into a policy means it's no longer an action. It's nothing anybody's gonna do. So that's one.
Yeah. So I'll just pause you there for a second, because at council, when we were talking about all the actions and the policies, one of the concerns I brought up is that not all policies have an action. You know, you think you would have a flow chart, right? You have a policy and each policy has a series of action steps.
Right.
But it's not really the case in the way it's worded, so there we are having some challenges with the way it's laid out in a sense that you have a policy, and maybe not all policies necessarily have an action, because it could be in itself, but there are not, they don't all point to each other. It's not a lot of connection between some of the policies and actions, and that's where some of the concern that I've shared at council about how the general plan layout is, you know.
And the other issue is a more generic issue, and
Yep.
that is that in I think it's chapter 6, it says that implementation of the plan will occur in community development plans.
Right,
So the actions and the policies presumably get expressed in the community development plan. And here we have a community development plan
Right.
that says a second road
Yeah.
is a quote, very high priority for
Yes.
this community since
Yes.
2008.
right,
And the missing piece, as far as I can tell, is how the plan is implemented to the budget. There is no discussion in the
Right.
plan about how something that is committed in a community development plan, which presumably is the way a policy and an action is actually implemented. How does it get translated into a budget item? And that's, of course, the piece of the puzzle
Yeah.
that you've been working on for us
yeah,
for the last year, which we really appreciate.
yeah, because I've never
But
seen
the
that.
plan itself doesn't lay out.
No, it doesn't, and I think it is elusive in a sense, and that's where me as a legislator and your council member, that's where I've seen that there's a need to, there's a hole to fill, right? And so that's where it's incumbent on me as your, elected representative to take that and move forward and identify dollars and move forward on these projects and push and advocate for with the administration. So, I mean, that's what might be lost in the translation on some of those things, yeah. But before we shift over, there's
Just got one question, I was gonna give some lessons.
Yeah, just one last thing, and it's still being baked right now, but I'm actively working with Councilmember Kimball.
That's my question.
So Councilmember Kimball is our Hamakua Councilmember for District 1. And both she and I, we've been working with Fire Chief Todd, our county fire department, and our Chief Todd there. As well as I've had some early conversations with Chief Henderson, who's our prevention battalion chief. Prevention side of things for fire department. But both Councilmember Kimball and I are actively looking at legislation for wildfire mitigation purposes. So there are a couple different fronts we're trying to approach on it. If you look at the policies on Hawai'i County, as well as on Maui County, we're trying to look at both of those, as well as other municipalities in California and on the mainland that have already implemented some mitigation strategies. So some of this revolves around vegetation management on properties. And some of it revolves around in our planning code about how our built environment. And also some of it relates to that interface between our urban and wildland or urban and wildland areas. So we're looking at it from a different couple of approaches. It's not going to be like one omnibus thing. We're hoping to kind of tackle it in smaller pieces so it's a little bit more presentable. But that's what we're actively doing. So eager to have those kind of conversations and come forward with the community on that and present those with you when we have some working drafts on that. But that's what's going on right now. There's other legislation pieces that I'm working on totally different topics, but wanted to share that one with the group here in a community that's very, ma'a and keen and aware of the fire risks in the community here. Related to that, I think there are other policy initiatives that I would love to partner with the community on, even with the WVA, there are opportunities for even partnership with our utility companies, and identifying different areas and different sort of like fuel breaks, trails, those sort of things that act as fuel breaks for community. So there are different policies out there that I think we can work on beyond legislation, but really want to just share that update with you as well. Yeah.
You read my mind, that was literally the question I was gonna ask, what's going on with Councilmember Kimball?
Yeah.
Great, well, mahalo so much, Councilmember, I'm sure you're gonna stick around and participate and contribute and ask questions, so that's it. But let's move on to the rest of our agenda items now. The first one, wanted to share some exciting news with everyone, we bought a new drone. So we got it was like a cool fun show and tell. We can talk about it a little bit for a second. We bought we had some new funds and we bought a DJI Mavic 4 Pro, which is right here. What I took that picture with right there. And the reason I'm bringing this up with you all right now is that it has a 100 megapixel camera on it right there, which means that I took this picture from Kamakaua Nui Park by the skate park. And you can see 3 miles down the coast to see the driveway at the far end. The other really nice thing about this drone is that it can stay in the air for 51 minutes at a time, which means that I can follow a car for the entire length of the fuel breaks. I don't have to land it and swap batteries and all of that stuff. And I have already tested it out. I went out on a fuel break with Tyler Munson, the wildfire mitigation specialist at WDFI about a week and a half ago, and we drove about 7 miles or so of breaks that he has been working on. And I'm editing that video, and that'll be up in the next week or so. So that's out there. So just wanted to share some exciting news right there. That's the one thing there. At the same time, I did take some videos, and I'll show you a quick little sample video that I don't know. We'll see whether you like it or not. And I'll share this with the. Just one second, I gotta share with the Zoom as well. One moment. Okay. So this is flying over Kamakaua Nui Park, and you can see on the right-hand side there, that's not Hawai'i County. Sign up started for that, and then I'm coming up on Nanakai right there, which currently has approximately 20 frames put up, has probably about 30 foundations built so far. And there are 5 houses listed on MLS right now. You can go purchase a house down at the north end of the village for anywhere between 1.9 and $3 million. So that is there, that exists, that happened. And the drone's great. So we're gonna be doing a lot more videos in the coming months. I'm gonna be doing all of the interior lots again. We'll be doing the power lines, and we're gonna be doing all of the fuel breaks once
What
again.
size are the lots? They look awfully small.
They are.
They are awfully small. They're quarter-acre lots. They're just like us. They're between they're 10 to 12,000 square foot lots. And the thing with it is that they're tied into the wastewater treatment plant there, so they don't have septic tanks. So if you go read through the development agreements, almost every bit of the development agreement is just all variances against the planning department's setback rules. We're talking like page after page after page of that, and then like one line about the road. So that's it. They're like California houses where they're right on top of one another.
Buy some,
Alright,
I've got some guesses, but
more money than grants.
yeah.
I think it's gonna be a lot of international people not viewing it on us. There's gonna be sight unseen. If you go to nanakai.com, you will discover 2 words don't appear on that entire website. Waikōloa and file. They aren't showing that they aren't telling people where they're buying, and they're not telling people about the data. We've got some strategies there. I don't wanna, we're gonna wait to see when one sells. We'll see what happens when one sells, but that is happening right now. So that's what we got going on there. Oh, while we're there, the next line, then the next part of the agenda right here is our renewed public documents requests. So we have a new strategy, but not a new strategy necessarily, but you heard us talking a little bit about the development and the possibility for the county to pay for things. And Bob and I have been having lots of conversations at the administrative level with the mayor's office, with the planning department, all of those things. And some of the stuff that was told to us earlier in the year has not come about. And we're very, very, very disappointed in that. And so we want to see what they're talking about behind the scenes when we're not in the room.
Well, let's be specific.
Please, yeah, no, so I printed them out. There are 3 copies of them, if anyone wants to read them. You can see exactly every single document that we requested. It's basically, we want every shred of paperwork and communication that has happened in the last year and a half related to this development agreement. We have gotten a response back from the planning department. And they responded with 1 document has been added to the file in the last year for the planning department. We haven't gotten the communications, we don't know everything else, but there has been 1 document filed at the county level in an official capacity at the planning department related to this project. We'll see what the emails say when we get the emails. Yes, sir.
Will they have a mailman?
So that's the strategy. You know, once you get MLS out, seriously, once you get an MLS out, this can be sold to an LLC. We know it's gonna be sold to an LLC in a PO box, right? But we're gonna mail them, we're gonna call them up, we're gonna contact them, and because the developer will listen to the people he's selling the houses to a lot more than he's gonna listen to us.
I just want to,
Please, Bob, yeah,
I just want to remind the community of the conversations that we had with the county last year, or in April. We had sent a letter to the mayor in March, asking him to support James's funding for the development of the full plan for a 2-lane arterial road. And in response to that, we had a meeting with the planning department in April. And we were told at that time by the director of planning that the county's approach to this was going to be to ask the developer of Nanakai to support the repayment of a bond. So the county would put out a bond for the 25 million that would be needed to build the road, and the developer then would cover the costs of paying the bond, so that would spread his costs out over time to allow him to sell the properties to, to generate the revenue to pay the bond. But it wouldn't be a public expense. It would be their expense. So we were told that no further approvals would be granted by the county until they had commitment from the developer to support this bond strategy. So what has not happened is any of that. There's not been a communication that we could find in which the county actually asked the developer to do that. And that's one of the reasons why we've asked for the documents, submitted this formal legal request for all of the communications between the county and the developer since we met with them in April. That's what's in play right now. We're asking for those communications. We do not have a response to that request yet. That's coming.
Okay,
And when we get it, we will share that with you. But what we're concerned about is that that strategy for funding the road is not happening. And that leaves the 2.5 million that James got for us in the last budget, the current year budget. As the only commitment of funding, which is not gonna build the roads. So, you know, we're now working towards other strategies, not gonna discuss right now, but we want you to know that we're moving ahead with this, that it's not just a waiting game. We're not just sitting on our ass, waiting for the county to come up with something. You know, we're gonna strategize with our council as best we can on the budget, but we may be working on other approaches to this.
yes,
So I just wanted the community to be aware of where we are
yes.
in moving ahead.
One wrinkle in this whole thing, I just want to flag. The developers have engaged in litigation in the past, and that resulted in attorney's fees of $250,000. So if we wanted to go toe to toe with them, not county or another local developer, but
It was two different
it
developers.
was two developers going head to head, that we don't need to get in, I mean, like, we can if you want, but it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, it cost $250,000 in legal fees. So that's what I view as the ticket to entry if we were to officially challenge them. So we gotta take a lot of other steps before we get to that point, because I don't got $250,000 to throw at this. So we're trying to go through an alternative pathway, and we're working.
Ticket size?
That's possible.
I think we have a question back here.
Yes, you have a question? Yes, ma'am.
This sounds.
Well, the agreement is that once they build 276 houses, they have an option of 2 different infrastructure improvements. One of which is a road from the village down to the Queen K. The other one is widening Paniolo Avenue to 4 lanes. And I see your face, I totally agree with you, it's insane that this is what's set up, and I've got some theories, we don't need to talk about them right now. But I don't think that the development agreements were in the best interest of the community when they were signed.
What year was the sign?
There have been 4 development agreements, one in 2004, another in 2008. County canceled that one. It got signed again in 2013, and the 4th and current one was signed in 2021. They do have a 5th amendment on the table, but they have not been pushing it since we've started making a lot of noise. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, so it was tied to Paniolo. It was tied.
That dates back to 1990.
Yeah,
Pardon me?
It dates back to.
it dates back to 1990. It dates back to the land
It
sale.
predates any of these approvals.
All of these approvals, and what happened is when the land got sold to the developers, there was a deed restriction that they had to build the Paniolo from Ho'oko to the skate park. It didn't happen, but the statute of limitations ran out, and it got to be a ridiculously complicated court battle that cost a lot of money and just made everyone angry. Yes, Serena, it's all.
Sorry, I can stand it. I'm hitting back here. James, you mentioned something, and maybe this kind of ties to this broader conversation about chemo's change of heart or something along those lines. In October, someone, so every Friday, he posted mayor's update, I don't know if anyone watches that. On October 24th, one of the white.
Also, these plastics.
No,
No.
that was last week, but.
Comments, but watch them, because I enjoy what's happening on this island. Someone in the comments, a Waikōloa resident asked about the Senate road. And he responded personally, and there was a lot of back and forth, there was at least 2 or 3 responses where he actually responded. And I have these screenshots, I'm happy to send them to anyone, but essentially he says, you got Hulu, and that's already more than most communities, and then you're gonna get comic book movies soon. That's 2 exits for one community, not to mention the exit on Honolulu, so technically you have 3 exits. So this feels like, and he goes on to say more, like, so it just feels like a year ago when he was in our cafeteria at school and we all showed up, all made it very clear that the second node is actually what we want and all the work that this organization has done. It has fallen on deaf ears, and more to your point, James, you actually put an amendment forward, it got funded to do an engineering study, $2.5 million. I took a day off of work and I drove to Hilo and I testified before the council. And so did some of the people here, and hundreds of, like, over almost 100 of us wrote letters. So you made a comment just earlier where you said, hey, we need to maybe contact the mayor again, and maybe we need to push on using these funds. It's so disheartening to see this repeatedly happen. And I understand that maybe he's a little confused of, or his tune is changing, but I'm really frustrated because I feel like we continue to ask and we're doing the work. So I don't know, is there an action item that should come out of this meeting for all of us to take, or is he changing his tune on Facebook in front of the community, in front of the world to see, like, what's going on? What's happening?
I can't speak for him.
Yeah, don't speak for him, speak for him. Just
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's, I mean, we've seen it with, different legislation that's come before the council too on different topics. So the one we've talked about recently right now is on single-use plastics and a prohibition on that. And the council voted 8-0. And this is a kind of a tangent, of course, but interesting to see the mayor, talk about it on his social updates in that way he did, because the council voted 8-0. So even if he vetoes it, the council can still override it, even with that game of math there. So I don't know. I'm not sure. I can't speak to all the different things, but thanks for bringing that up. But please share that one with me. I'd be interested to see that dialogue back and forth. I've had conversations with Matt and Bob and David Foster and other community members with the mayor. I sat down with the mayor on different occasions to talk about priorities. I still advocate for these projects because in my heart, I see the growth of the community, the need in the community. So it's still something that I'm gonna advocate for. And it's just, I have to keep pushing. I have to keep pushing administration to kind of take on this initiative. I do fear that they are leaning on the developer in some of those older agreements, which is fine if the agreements make sense and if they're actionable tomorrow. But I worry that the time it's going to take to get to those trigger points, if and ever they get to the trigger points. So that was one of my primary reasons to bring those, with the community, bring those amendments on the budget forward, because I see them as critical needs for the community. I mean, coming to community meetings for many years in the community here, with the traffic safety committee, general meetings in the community, through other political rallies, all those sort of things. It's important to kind of understand what the community is really asking for. And it sits on the CDP since 2008. So attending all those meetings and understanding that, hey, this is something the community's been clamoring for a long time. That it fell on me to kind of take this initiative and try a different tact. There's potentially other avenues that we could pursue, but I do share some of that same worry that it's shifting a little bit.
So I hear the frustration is, I'm not gonna cut you off, I will let you answer the thing, but I hear the frustration is what is our response and what is our action that's moving forward. So I want to actually go out of order here and jump ahead to the old business thing, but I want to let you ask your question first. So
It's not really important. Just, do you know and do they know a sense of urgency? Because according to the data, Waikōloa is most at risk from the whole United States.
you wouldn't believe the emails I have sent and the work that I have said to very, very, very important people, looking them in the eye. I have told them that I do not want to watch my daughter burn to death in the back of a car, and that is what is going to happen if nothing happens. I have said that to both Mitch Roth and Kimo Alameda.
So.
And obviously James knows now too.
And when we had the Mana Pu'ukapu fire a couple of years back now, and seeing 50,000 acres burn, And luckily, the weather conditions changed. But that could have been a lot worse. But growing up in Waimea, and never thinking that I would see a fire like that, and then experiencing that, and going out there in my role with the Waimea Community Association at the time, and feeding the first responders, and raising money to feed the first responders, because they were out there day in, day in, day in, you know, constant to manage that, and the runaway fire and the winds we're dealing with, and really and that even shifts to the August 8th fires, where yes, we saw, you know, catastrophe and tragedy on Maui. We also had fires, multiple fires burning here on island at the same time, that a lot of the state doesn't even know about. And that I've seen our other state electeds, Rep. Tarnas, Senator Richards, talk about it to others, and they're like, oh, you had fires? And even Matt and the team here, and HWMO and the team there talk about this, that a lot of people didn't realize that there were these other things were going on other islands. Yeah, so I am aware it does keep me up at night, probably not as much as the residents here in Waikōloa, but I know it's a big fear that you have in the community.
The last meeting we had with staff about the road,
Yeah.
just last month, and at that time, you know, we were asking, what is the plan for the county section of this road? It's already laid out, it's on county land, it's not private land.
Yep.
And, you know, we had support presumably from the housing folks.
Sure.
Have you discussed with the mayor that piece of the project, just getting that advanced so that the county section of the road gets budgeted sooner, because it's already in a plan,
Yeah.
a county obligation.
Yeah, so when Matt talks about that, you know, the Goodfellow Brothers project and the state project with Goodfellow Brothers to have that egress road.
Yeah, Matt, why don't you put up your
Oh,
last
start with the
photo?
map. Do I see the map again?
No, the photo
The
you
photo?
had of the road, it's
Yeah, I got it.
perfect.
Oh, there you go.
That's the road right there, that's the county
Where it should
section.
be, yeah. We'll get it put.
Yeah, I have not gotten a clear answer on the county piece of it. So I don't have an answer on that one, but that's a question that I brought up with the mayor directly, in a sense that the state is doing this portion. What about this other portion? And so that's the question I haven't received an answer for.
Well, that's the piece where we could probably focus most attention in the short term.
Yeah, especially as we're seeing Goodfellow Brothers out there, hopefully very soon activated in that space. That it leaves that question about, well, how do we connect to it? Are we gonna
Yes.
use this? Yeah,
Yes.
so, yeah.
Very fair. That's what we're here.
Well, that,
Obviously.
Right.
that's what's gonna be used at the moment.
Yes, sir.
People and developers hostage, I don't know how many permits have already been issued or approved. But pulling those permits for homes.
I can't do that, but you know, we've had some conversations with Jeff Darrow, the planning director, and any sort of other agreements and any sort of variances to any of the buildings. They are not allowing and permitting any of that until the developer comes to the table to talk about the bigger picture. So that, I know that is still the MO right now, but we're still seeing, you know, permits moving forward, so it's really the variances.
Yeah, I mean, so Jeff Darrow told us to our face that they are free and clear to build 78 houses no matter what. If they want to make some changes to those plans, if they want to put them close to the road, if they want to do stuff, then they're gonna have to go ask permission, and that's where the variances come in, and that's where they can hold it. But right now, if they don't change any of their plans, they're allowed to build 78 houses. I know, trust me. Okay, so we need to ramp up the pressure. We need to get them to realize that this is an important thing. And so our initial sort of reaction in response to this was, hey, let's have a rally. Let's have a thing for a bunch of kids down at Kamakaua Nui Park, where we could get the media out and take pictures of kids in front of the houses being built and get the, you know, reporters to drive down there and everything. We actually called the Parks Department, we started applying for the permits and everything, and then Aslan, me, Serena, and a wedding planner friend of ours went and looked at Kamakaua Nui Park, and it's just not gonna work. The logistics of it, it's just physically not going to work because of the parking and all of that.
What we wanted to.
So what we wanted to do.
Traffic
vendor and we show people in the fire department to be there.
This thing, that thing, the next, yeah.
There's some logistical problems with how people would load in for an event, how they would load out, that type of thing.
So we're gonna shift the strategy a little bit, because the goal really from the whole idea of having this rally, not only to like activate the community and distribute merch and have t-shirts and all of that stuff out there. We're still gonna buy some fancy t-shirts. Aslan did a great job working on some logos and designs and stuff like that, so we're not gonna put that to waste. We're still gonna we'll go to town on Alibaba and hopefully there'll be some cool new merch available around here. But we're probably gonna have a little bit more focus on just doing press outreach. Where we're gonna probably try and work with some people to specifically target stories in the newspaper and on TV. To see how we can do that. So we're talking a little bit about that. We haven't decided exactly what angle that'll take, but we're gonna, we thought that rather than going about it a backdoor way of having all of the kids there and hoping the reporters show up, we're gonna very specifically target them. And that may involve some sort of like press event thing where we might have like 5 to 10 people in shirts and we invite them out and we talk about it, or I don't know. We don't know exactly where that's gonna land, but we're gonna pay someone to help us with it, is the plan. Because we're not there yet. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I know I've hit this drum before. Everybody's picking it up, so I'm gonna go again. Okay, we only have one road out right now, and a fire can happen any day. We do not have a plan to take 3 lanes out and 1 lane back.
Yep.
And I've said this and said this and said this, and every time I say it, they say, nobody's gonna understand that. Well, we all understand that when you're driving up to Waimea, one of those big trucks gets in the bike lane and lets us pass. That means the 3 lanes can be leaving and 1 coming back. We only have 1 way out if the fire comes from down by the Queens.
It's almost certainly not going to, but yeah.
But the last fires were down there. They were in Mauna Kea, they were in Kahala, and they were in Kauai High. So if the wind switches or it creates its own wind and blows it this way, we have no way to get out. We have to implement this. It has to be in the breeze every single month that this is the way we're gonna go out. Because if you only have 2 cops here and 2 cops in Waimea, we're going to have to manage this ourselves.
Oh, we absolutely cannot do
We
that.
have to be
We
ahead
cannot
of
do
it.
that.
We all have to say, we do.
No.
We're all smart people. We can all figure out 3 lanes out if we're going north, 3 lanes out if we're going south.
Yeah, and I hear what you're saying. I very much hear that, and that will go into the evacuation study. Which is beginning, right? So this is sorry, this is a thing from last month. The county got funds to do an evacuation study for Waikōloa Village. They hired a firm and supposedly are likely to be doing community meetings early next year. I don't know exactly when you're okay. So that supposedly that'll start happening and get there. CERT team members who are trained by the county to be emergency response individuals are not permitted by the county to direct traffic. They have asked for it and
Car in front of you. That's all I'm saying. If this starts getting publicized, that this is the plan, we at least will start a plan.
yeah,
We can't wait for a process of determining what the plan will be. This needs to happen now. I mean, this is serious.
No, I hear you.
We cannot get out. We cannot evacuate all these people.
You're right. You're very correct there. I hear you 1000% on that. The police we have discussed the 3 lanes, 1 lane thing. They have said that that is plausible and maybe a thing that they do. There's no world in which the WVA is going to publish, this is alternative traffic patterns and take that liability on. It's just not gonna happen. I hear what you're saying, I really do, but there's no way that that's.
Well, what is it gonna take to get this to be an official policy?
That's a good question. I don't know that answer. I don't know about that part. Councilmember, what do we do this?
Policy. I've said this so many times, that this happens all the time in Florida, and it goes perfect.
Yeah,
They get out of the Keys. They get out of the Keys as fast as they can because the hurricanes come.
Yeah.
I mean, this can't be something that we're going to action
Yeah.
planning on it.
No, I hear you.
We should all know what is the approach.
I don't disagree that we should all know what the approach is. Yes, sir. Yes.
So the evacuation study that you mentioned,
Yes.
Matt, is, I think, that crucial piece in terms of establishing that policy for this specific community that they want to replicate for other communities across the county going forward in the future. So that's kind of the language that needs to be documented in there, and either that's the community direction that needs to be taken. You know, in those evacuation events, if you're looking at Paniolo Avenue, for example, it should be all lanes going out and actually no lanes coming in. Because when they're declared an evacuation, you're not supposed to be returning to the area at all.
Well, I agree with you, then we'll go 4 out.
But that's
Responders have got
If the school day, and there's 850 kids in the school, the parents are gonna have to come in to get their kids.
those are those conversations that I have with civil defense about those other resources that need to be deployed in the community, so that they wouldn't use all 4 lanes. It'd have to be some lane for first responders to come through, or get seniors out, or get children out, because you have to get mass transit in, those sort of things. But as we saw with the August 8th fires, people in the Kohala region, North Wildfire area, they were trying to get back into their homes. They were trying to go get something or whatever it was. You're not supposed to do that, because you're gonna then put the fire department and the police at risk, because then they're gonna have to go and get you when they should be fighting the fire or doing something else. So, but that's a policy that needs to be documented in something, so that then the police can activate it, that public works can put up the cones and be, stationed at areas.
We don't have time for cones. We don't have.
Oh,
time for
but
that.
I understand.
Let's think, if you train the people who were smart enough to figure this out. We don't need cones, we don't need a study, we don't need any of that. And we don't care what our things written up for the next community in every place in the whole county. They can make up their own plan to get out. We need to get out.
We do need to get out. After the tsunami, I reached out to Professor Carl Kim, who is a civil engineer at UH Manoa, who studies evacuations. He studies more tsunami evacuations, but he studies this too. And I had a nice, really good conversation with him. And the top line that he delivered to me is that an evacuation actually has 2 phases. The first phase is a traffic problem. It's a congestion problem. It's everyone who can get out is getting out and is on the roads. That's not the dangerous part of an evacuation. The dangerous part of an evacuation is the second phase, which is the people who need help to leave. That's the kapuna, that's the people who don't speak the right language, who don't speak English and don't understand what the alerts are. It's all of those people. That's people with young children at the school. It's the people who need assistance. And those are the people who actually die. Most of the people in Lahaina who died on the roads were going back to the house to pick up prey. And that is where the evacuation study is absolutely vital, because Julia unfortunately left. But after the last evacuation, she did a really wonderful survey of the full community and got 800 responses. And over 300 of the people said that they didn't leave the village because they couldn't. If you translate that out to the full scale of the village, that means over 2,000 people are going to be staying in their houses if the village is burning down. And that is a lot. Of course, the traffic is a problem. And of course, everyone getting out is a problem. But 2,000 people might burn to death in their houses because we don't have the ability to assist them to leave. Yes.
Just one comment I would add, it sort of appears interesting, but part of it is grassroots and going back to your neighborhoods and knowing who your neighbors are that might need assistance. I mean, HECO has come out and said, hey, when the PSPS is out there, as they advertise that, they told people who had medical reasons, who had challenges that were, plugged in, to notify HECO so that they could identify where, if they shut off power, where were the people that were at risk at that point. So along those lines, some of it is incumbent on us to know who's there. And so that if something happens, who your neighbors are that need assistance, to the extent that we're there and we're able-bodied to help them or to call it out. So I just, this grassroots is just my opinion, but I think that's something that to take back to the neighborhood, that, and know who's there. because everything is not laid out for us. We don't have emergency plan, we don't have all the road, so it has to come from what can we do in the meantime.
I think the WBA did that, maybe about 20 minutes ago.
WVA commissioned an evacuation study that was made between 2014 and 2016. I have it. I have been explicitly instructed by multiple people not to share it because it includes things in it that are not going to happen. They assumed that civil defense was going to do something, the police were going to do something, and that is not true. And so I have been specifically instructed by Talmadge Magno to not put it out there because it would harm public safety. And I have.
I believe early when I first moved here, that the WBA had a list of people who needed help to leave the village.
Yes, I'm sorry, I was confused. Yeah.
Older people didn't drive mostly.
Yeah, so when we moved in 2016, we got a form that said, fill this out and we'll go back. Those aren't included in the welcome packet anymore and no one knows where they are in the office. So that's another really good question is like, how many people?
Maybe the communications.
How many people are expecting help that isn't coming is my big question.
Yeah, find out who's your help.
Right.
So these are all big questions. I don't want to talk about the WVA. It really comes down to. So yeah. Anyone have anything else about this whole? Yes, ma'am.
I live in Paniolo Estates.
Exactly.
We are not part of Waikōloa.
That's the big point. Yeah.
So anything that the association does doesn't affect us.
Precisely.
But we're still here and we're in the northernmost section of the village, so just wanted to put that out.
Yes,
there.
And I think
Thank you.
for a long time, there's this assumption that the WVA speaks for Waikōloa Village, but they did not. And with how much the community's growing, it's really not gonna be long before the balance shifts away from the WVA sort of being a mouthpiece for the majority. It's not going to be the majority, I think, in 10 years. So we have to find a better way to communicate with the entire community. That's something I always have felt like Waimea does such a great job. They have a Waimea Community Association. And they have just the way that community communicates and they do events is so good. And our community, we're not quite there yet. I don't know the solution, but yeah, the WVA, it can't really speak for the whole community because they only represent 3,300 of the 7,500 residents.
No, it's 3,200 houses.
Right, 3,200 houses.
What would happen if we had special meeting with a lot of people that were volunteers that said that we're just gonna do it? We're just gonna put it out there how to get out of here, and we do it,
I won't tell.
and then they'll make a movie about it, so yeah. I'm serious.
Yeah, I hear you.
I love your passion. I know you're serious.
The chances are, if we did that, it would become the public policy of the police department.
Yeah.
You
that's what
know,
I'm saying. Okay, well,
it would happen.
because it's something that it's common sense, it's so common sense, I don't think we need to study this, and people are not gonna be stupid when it comes time to get.
You'd be surprised how stupid people are gonna be when it comes time to get out. You'd be shocked how dumb some
If
people.
you start educating now, it wouldn't like that.
I actually think that's why we do the blue bubble.
Yeah.
Because there is something to getting people familiar with how to evacuate,
Right.
and that's honestly, right now for me, that's a question. I hope the evacuation study will answer, I think it will, but then at that point, we'll have an official document that we can circulate to the community to begin awareness and training.
Okay. Anything else about the road, or can we move on to fireworks? Let's move on to fireworks, everyone's favorite thing here in the village. So obviously, I'm being sarcastic about that. I am terrified of New Year's Eve. I was absolutely petrified last year. It was windy and there were people setting off aerials, and that's not acceptable. It's in this exact area. It was absolutely unconscionable. I genuinely view it the same thing as shooting a loaded gun into a crowd. It is dangerous. And what happened in Salt Lake, Oahu last year, a 3-year-old died. A 3-year-old died. I don't care anymore. I am staying up until midnight and I am going to call the police on every single aerial. And I already went and told Justin Covington yesterday that I will put my name down on any police report. And I'm encouraging other people to do the same. I'm not joking. And I have an FAA 107 license. I am allowed to legally fly my drone at night. I am going to do that. I am going to video aerials and I am going to report them. And I'm going to ask people to do the same. This is the most important thing. So yesterday afternoon, while my daughter was at Pula, I went and stopped over at the Waimea police station. And had a very, very, very good conversation with the community resource officer, Justin Covington. It was interesting. He was both very happy about the laws that got improved last year, but also a little concerned that it wasn't as much teeth. It was mostly funding for interdiction of the fireworks coming in, right? And he was saying the same thing what James was just saying. There are 4 police officers assigned for this whole area. And my hope, and I asked him straight up, I was like, hey, can we please have at least 1 police officer at the north end of the village at midnight on New Year's Eve? And he said he was going to try and work on that. And they were going to start talking about their response plan and everything. But the thing that he said is the most important, and this is going to be useful for James, this is going to be useful for Tarnas, and this is going to be useful for Richards, is if that people just call dispatch in and just report it. Because the second a fireworks gets reported, they record the call. And they can then go back and say, the Waimea precinct got 142 calls from Waikōloa Village on New Year's Eve, and it is an official government record and document. And then James and Tarnas and Richards can then go back and use that citation to advocate for more laws and more resources. So the big problem is the number of cops, right? Like if there's a DUI that's obvious going down the street, that can kill someone way faster than, a firecracker can. That's going to be their priority, right? They're going to go deal with that person. But if they see a fire that is started by a firework, they're going to go deal with that. Right? They definitely have a triage system, especially on New Year's Eve, right? People are drunk, people are fighting, people are getting car crashes, all of that stuff. Currently, they have 4 cops planned for that night. I did ask them to increase that number a little bit, and they said that they usually do, but they don't know where they're going to go at on that. But he said that a couple things. He said, do not. You can only put your name on police reports of things that you saw. So I can't be calling in stuff that's in a different part of the village. But he did say that it'd be great if multiple people were out there looking around and doing it. And I'm impressed.
But how many people get their lawn chairs out, sit in front of the driveway and watch fireworks? Well, the thing is, that's just giving those people who are setting off fireworks more ammunition and more.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, people come out in their front of their driveway. And they.
No, I know. I mean,
So we need a counter to that. And the counter to that could be a community patrol.
Well,
I wouldn't go out alone, but I would go out with 4 other men.
Wait a
Wait,
minute.
this is something he's.
No.
Hold on.
So I'm talking about 4 of the men taking the lead. And with our cameras, with our phone cameras, and going out and photographing the people who are setting off.
So the one thing that he also cautioned me not to do is do not be the police yourself. Do not engage people, don't talk to people, because you don't know if they're drunk, they got a gun in the house and whatever, right? So don't be confrontational.
As a patrol.
So what I'm planning on doing is he also said it's very important the more detail you can give, the address, and if there's like clothing, if you saw someone do it, whatever, but I know where the ones that are going to be around my house. Yeah, you know
where they are too.
Right. So write it down, have the list that you know, keep an eye out for the aerials, and that's going to be my cutoff. Like whatever firecrackers, that's cultural, that's legal, understood, gonna tolerate it. The second I see an aerial going off, call dispatch. Don't call 911, call the non-emergency line, and just keep on doing it. So yes. Sorry, he very, very, very clearly told me do not be a cop.
If we go out and take pictures, then they can do something.
You guys can go down to Comic Park area, which is, I think, one of the
That's where it's gonna
scariest-
happen.
scariest spots, and it's an empty parking lot. They do people to areas. Do they?
Yes.
Well, they right around some separate. Answer back to each other.
Yeah.
Shoot one off, then these guys double that.
Yeah, exactly. And so,
But the cops are on either side.
Yeah.
There are cops that live on
well,
either side of that one cul-de-sac. They know that's. what's-
yeah,
Well, previously they didn't.
the
have a
law,
tool.
the
Now
law,
they can, with the new law, they can go out and write tickets on the spot.
yes.
That's a new tool available to the cops. They didn't have last. So we want to encourage them to use it.
And they can also write a ticket to the homeowner. If they don't have a specific person, they'll give a ticket to the property owner. So, and there's also like, they don't have to like weigh the firework before it was launched anymore, which was absolutely asinine, the way that it used to be able to do it. So that's why there's never been conviction before, because the rules were used. Okay, so anyways, any other questions about fireworks or plans? Yes, ma'am. So you can get a permit for firecrackers. You can get a permit for that from the fire department, and it's worth, you buy a ticket, and it's like for 1,000 firecrackers. I don't know exactly how the system works, but that you can get a permit for sure. You cannot aerials, even owning them, possessing them, it's just like a pile of cracker. Is that?
Where do they buy them?
You got friends.
There's like an illegal market.
They get mail from the mainland, they got buddies.
And there's a specific time that you can be lighting the firecrackers off as well. So the permit is valid for a specific window of time around that New Year's event, so.
Yeah, I think it's like 9 o'clock.
Into that one or whatever. And
Like, yeah.
what I told Justin, the police officer commenting. A 3-year-old died. I've got a 5-year-old. I don't care. I don't care if someone's mad at me. A 3-year-old died. Like,
So many people were disfigured and.
I know 6 people total died, one of which was 3. And that's not okay. And I don't care. I don't care if people don't like me. I don't care if I'm hated. This is. I'm not putting this community's safety.
Community firework displays that people can be directed to, so that, so.
That's what.
To leave it.
Yeah, that's an interesting conversation I've had with community members. I mean, the resort communities, they do their fireworks displays, so. There's potentially an opportunity to partner with them, so you can go to like the Queen's Bowl and watch it from there, like there's definitely something that, that could be in lieu of. People letting off their weapons.
I get it. Drinking and shooting off explosives is fun as hell, man. I get it totally, but like not here, just not here. That's you got you can do it safely in here. It's a good question. I don't know how much a ticket is. That's a couple $100, $300-400, I think, something like that.
I would be saying.
I think so. I think it's $300.
Dollars.
So that's where we gotta start pushing the state harder for harder rules. I know.
So I think that is that everything.
I think so. I think that's everything we got on here.
That's one more thing, but.
Oh, please do.
So one of the issues, and it's not just District 9, so District 9 is North and South Kohala that I represent. And it's not just our district, but there are abandoned vehicle problems across the county. And one example I have in North Kohala, there's a property owner that may not even know, but there's upwards of 50 abandoned vehicles on that property that caught fire a couple years back. Because someone was squatting, or there was a cooking fire, or there were other rumors about what the fire started from, but that's definitely a concern in our community. So been working with planning department on tackling that issue. But I know there are other places where there are abandoned vehicles, or vehicles where there shouldn't be vehicles, or where there's large, high brush and those sort of things. So there's one on Mahalo Avenue, past the school, where someone's parking actually on county property. So trying to work with the planning department on pursuing that, and making sure that those situations don't happen. So if you know of places where there are abandoned vehicles that are a risk, and people like derelict or abandoned and not being taken care of, let me know. I'll see what I can look into that kind of situation. But I know there's that one situation on Mahalo Avenue where vehicles are in the high brush and it's dry most of the time. That's an issue, just from all the chemicals and the fluids in the vehicle that could cause a problem, because there was a fire where there were a lot of vehicles up in North Mahalo. Yeah, and I know we're wrapping up here, but happy to reach out, please let me know if you have any other questions. I can give you my card. If you want to send me an email, I can add you to my newsletter. I also do weekly updates on social media too, so trying to get information out there about activity and things that I'm doing for the community. So thanks for having me.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Anything else?
Happy holidays.
What I wanna say is, if you didn't sign up for our email list, please do. I haven't yet secured this room for the same second Tuesday or second Wednesday of the month for next year, but once I do, I'll send an email out so you guys know, because we do meet monthly and we plan to continue doing that. And also there's pumpkin pie.
Oh yes, please get the pumpkin pie. We don't want to take home a pumpkin pie. So
Thank
we
you.
can take some. Thank you, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Oh, and please take a second road magnet as well.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Jan. See you guys. Oh, maybe that's something.